My name is Ngozi, and for 20 years, I called a woman Mama who did not carry me in her womb. I only found out on the day my father lay dying in a hospital bed in Enugu, gasping for breath, holding my hand so tight it hurt, whispering words that changed everything I thought I knew about my life. Let me start from the beginning, because you will not believe this story if I just jump into the end. Grab your drink, sit down. This one is long. I grew up in a modest 3-bedroom bungalow in Enugu, the last of 4 children, or so I thought, to Chief Emeka Okafor and his wife, Mama Adaeze. My father was not a rich man, but he was respected. He worked as a civil servant for almost 30 years, the kind of man who greeted every neighbor by name and settled every compound dispute before it reached the police. Mama Adaeze was the woman who nursed my wounds, plaited my hair every Sunday before church, and slapped sense into me the day I nearly failed my WAEC because I was busy chasing a boy from government college. She was strict, but she loved hard. Nobody in that house ever treated me differently from my siblings. Not once, not for one single day. That is what makes this story so painful. My eldest sister, Chidinma, was the one who started asking questions first, though none of us knew it at the time. She had gone through some old family photographs while helping Mama clean out a box in the attic, preparing for my father's traditional title ceremony. In one photo, faded, yellow at the edges, there was a young woman standing beside my father, heavily pregnant, in front of a small provisions shop in Onitsha. My father looked maybe 26 years old in that photo. The woman was not Mama Adaeze. Chidima did not think much of it then. She assumed it was an aunt, a family friend, one of those things you forget to ask about until much later. She kept the photo in her bag and moved on with her life. It was 3 years later, the year I turned 23, that everything cracked open. My father was diagnosed with advanced liver disease. The doctors did not give him more than a few months. As a family, we took turns sitting with him at the hospital, feeding him, praying with him, watching a strong man shrink into something fragile. One evening, it was my turn to sit alone with him. The ward was quiet except for the beeping machines. He held my hand and started talking, his voice weak but urgent, like a man trying to empty his chest before it was too late. "Ngozi, my daughter," he said, "there is something I have carried for 20 years. If I die and do not say it, God will not forgive me." My heart started beating fast. I did not know what to expect. I thought maybe he wanted to confess some old family land dispute or some money he owed somebody in the village. I was not prepared for what came next. "You are not Adaeze's daughter," he said. "Your mother is a woman called Rosemary. She died giving birth to you in Onitsha. Adaeze agreed to raise you as her own because she could not have another child after Chidinma, and because Rosemary was somebody I should never have touched." I sat there frozen. My mouth was open, but no sound came out. My heart dropped so heavily, I thought it had fallen out of my chest entirely. "How is this possible?" I kept asking him. "How? Why did nobody tell me? Why did Mama never say one word?" He explained in broken pieces, breathing heavily between sentences, that Rosemary was a young woman who worked in his office as a typist back when he was newly posted to Onitsha, years before he even met Adaeze properly, though they were already introduced by their families for a planned marriage. He said it was a moment of weakness, a mistake he regretted his whole life. Rosemary became pregnant with me, and before I was even 1 week old, she died from complications after the delivery, something about severe bleeding that the small clinic could not control. My father was terrified. He had a wife-to-be, Adaeze, waiting for him from a respected family, and a scandal like this could destroy everything: his reputation, his upcoming marriage, his standing in his hometown. So my father did something drastic. He brought me to Adaeze before their wedding and begged her to accept me as her own. He told her the full truth, that I was not her biological child but his, from Rosemary, who had died. And here's the part that still confuses me till today. Adaeze agreed. Nobody else in the extended family knew the real story. As far as everybody was concerned, I was Adaeze's fourth child, born less than a year after their wedding, nothing unusual. My father even manipulated the story of the date slightly, telling relatives who visited during confinement that the delivery happened at a private hospital in Lagos, far from prying village eyes. I sat in that hospital room replaying my entire childhood in my head. Every memory, every conversation, every scolding, every embrace, all of it suddenly felt like it was standing on a foundation of sand. "Does Mama know that you are telling me this now?" I asked him. He shook his head slowly. "Bido does not know I am telling you today. But Ngozi, I beg you, when I am gone, do not hate her. She did not have to accept you. She chose to love you as her own, and she has kept that promise for 20 years. 3 weeks later, my father passed away. I did not tell anyone what he told me. Not immediately. I carried that secret alone for almost 2 months, watching Mama Adaeze wail and mourn her husband, watching my siblings grieve, feeling like an outsider in my own family's pain, wondering if my grief even belonged to me the way theirs did. I started noticing things I had never paid attention to before. The way Mama sometimes looked at me a little longer than she looked at my siblings, like she was searching for something. The way she kept a small metal box locked in her wardrobe that none of us were ever allowed to touch. The way once, years ago, an old woman at a village function had looked at me and said, "This one favors her mother well," and Mama had quickly changed the subject and ushered us away. I started asking myself, how did I never notice? What had she done to protect this secret for 20 years? Why was everybody suddenly acting so careful around me since Papa died? One Sunday afternoon, after church, I finally worked up the courage to confront Mama Adaeze. I sat her down in the parlor, my hands shaking, and I told her everything my father had said before he died. She did not deny it. She did not even look surprised, only tired, like a woman who had been waiting 20 years for this exact conversation to finally arrive. "So, he told you," she said quietly. "I always wondered if he would do it before he died, or if he would take it to his grave and leave the burden on me alone." I asked her the question that had been eating me alive. "Why? Why did you agree to raise another woman's child as your own? You could have refused. Nobody would have blamed you." She was silent for a long time before she answered. "Because that child, you, did nothing wrong. You did not choose to be born. You did not choose your mother's death or your father's mistake. Somebody had to hold you, Ngozi, and God arranged it to be me." She told me she had struggled with it in the early years, moments of resentment, moments where she looked at me and saw only Rosemary's face and her husband's betrayal staring back at her. But she said something changed the day you fell seriously ill as a toddler, running a fever so high the doctors feared you would not survive the night. She said she sat by your cot the whole night praying, and by morning when your fever broke, something inside her heart broke open too. From that night, she said, you stopped being her daughter in her mind and simply became her daughter. I cried for a long time that afternoon, not the confused, angry crying from the hospital weeks earlier, but something softer, something that felt like relief mixed with grief for a mother I never knew and gratitude for the one who chose me anyway. But Mama Adaeze was not finished. "There is something else," she said, her voice suddenly heavy again. "Something your father did not tell you because even I only found out myself 6 years ago." My stomach tightened. "What is it, Mama?" She hesitated, glancing toward the door as though checking that none of my siblings were within earshot. "Rosemary did not die alone in that clinic the way your father told you," she said slowly. "Somebody else was in that room with Rosemary. Somebody who has been asking me questions about you for the past 2 years. Questions I have been avoiding. Questions I did not know how to answer without telling you everything I have just told you now." My chest went cold. "Who, Mama? Who has been asking about me?" Before she could answer, my phone rang. It was Chidima, my elder sister, and her voice was shaking so badly I could barely understand her at first. "Ngozi," she said. "You need to come to the house now. There is a woman standing outside our gate. She says she is our aunt, Rosemary's younger sister. She says she has been searching for a baby girl for 20 years and she has documents to prove it. She's asking for you by name." I looked up at Mama Adaeze. Her face had gone pale, her hands trembling around the edge of her wrapper. "Mama," I whispered, "you told me Rosemary had no family." She opened her mouth to answer me, but no words came out. And that was the moment we heard a second knock at our own front door. Hard, urgent, insistent, followed by a man's voice we did not recognize, calling out for my father's name as if he had a score to settle with a dead man. Mama Adaeze grabbed my wrist so tightly it hurt. "Ngozi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "whatever happens after this door opens, promise me you will let me explain everything before you judge either of us." I never got the chance to answer her. The door opened.